Hello, this is Edward Pierce of Einstein 314. This is Duly Noted, Part 9A. Okay, it is December the 18th, 2016, and it's a little after 4:32, actually, according to my clock on my piece of wood. Here's a trivia question. What tree only grows in two parts of the world that you would find in Washington and Israel? That's what my clock's made of. So, okay. Now, communications. Well, in my video, I have a video, and some people might be perplexed about it. I was talking about numbers. In order to understand numbers, you have to understand Everett. Before you can understand Everett, you have to understand numbers. So basically they go hand in hand. Means energy. Foundation of energy. Principles. So, okay, and what's been in the news, and I think everyone with a smartphone or a Twitter account or a Facebook account would understand this. Well, on your smartphone, you have a voice to text. And I don't know if Google's doing this deliberately, but when I speak in there, I try to pronounce my words. And what it'll do is you say, I'm going to the grocery store. And it'll put words that I didn't even say. And occasionally, sometimes it'll say, you want a brand new car. I say, wait a minute, I didn't say that. So communications. I'm a man of communications, advanced level 3. But a lot of people, have you heard the old quote, never judge a book by its cover? And that is pertaining to me. Okay, in terms of intelligence, my previous life, Einstein. Previous life, Abraham Lincoln. But just on Einstein, I'm able to tone down my energy, my knowledge, and I'm also able to turn it up. Okay, what's the purpose of this? Because we have multiple levels of evolution on this planet. Everyone is a sample from other life out there. What's here is less than 1% of the life that's out there. So, a man of communications. And you look at the foundation, symbolism. Using numbers, using language. You can, in terms of communications, you can use so many. People haven't even tapped into the various different ways that energy, the highest form of evolution known as God or Jehovah or Allah, no matter what you call it, it has so many. I'm learning every day another form. And I learn it, and then I have to go through these series of, just like learning our ABCs, and then I have to develop it. So there's a wide open in communications. Okay, why? Okay, why would you do that? Okay, in terms of President Trump, why would he want to open line communication? Is a lot of Americans out there feel disassociated. It's like, yeah, that's our president, but they're not connecting with him. Not saying that they're hanging out with him, but it's like they put certain expectations. Okay, we have our president and he's up there in the podium and he's sounding like Abraham Lincoln, my previous life. 400 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this planet a new nation. Okay, and it's like, well, that's how a president talks. Okay, the thing is, what's the lesser of the evil? Because that right there might relate to a lot of people, of the higher educated ones. But what about the other ones? They're on different levels of education, and they're like that disassociation. And it's like all they know how to say is see Jane run, run Jane. I mean, simple forms of communications. So you have a wide variety of people. Not saying just like a number system. All the numbers are equally important, even though they represent different values. But they work superior as a unit. So we haven't begun cracking into the lines of communication, which is an inseparable element or inseparable foundation to the energy. When energy became MC, it's communicating. Okay, and I've had people, because of their insecurity, say, well, Evan, you just think you know it all. I say, well, when I think about it, I was like, okay, well, that's because I do. Well, I mean, not all, okay? Or you always think you're right, okay? Because a lot of times I am, okay? And it's not doing this, okay, I'm blowing my head up and there's words for that, and it's like, we're basically, you're projecting yourself as this, when you're this, okay? And, so anyways, so you're writing your text. It would be Facebook or Twitter. And so it was this professor. Okay, here's a good example. And I use communications. I use symbolism. I use, present tense, past tense. I mean, but I use them in terms of it. It's like a language within a language within a language within a language. That's how the Bible was set up. That's how the Quran was set up. A lot of the books. So as you evolve, you start seeing things differently. And you say, wow, I've read this book 1,000 times. I didn't even see that. What an idiot. It's fine. The line starts back here. When you're an apprentice of God, you get used to that. Okay. So anyways, I have this professor on there, and he's trying to save face. He's trying to look superior, like he's from Harvard. And he says, you don't even know your English. It's all grammatically, all blah, blah, blah. And that was the only thing he focused on. How I didn't cross my T, or my grammatic, I had grammatic structure problems of my English. Well, when I was in Florida, I went to college, and I had all A's, and I was accepted out of 1,200 people in that nursing program, out of 1,200 people, and they selected, 35, 40 people. So, and I got an achievement award, which was an elective, which was speed reading, meaning within a week, the highest program that she had was 600 words a minute. And so when I took the last one in, she didn't believe me. She said, oh, no. So she stood behind me for 2 more times. And of course, 600 words a minute. It was bang, 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 read it. And then I answered. I had, out of the 3, one of them was 90%. The other ones was 100%, 90%, and 100%. And she saw it with her own eyes. I didn't cheat or anything like that. And she said, well, that's it. That's the highest that I have, the program here. Okay. And then I find out, she puts me in for an academics achievement award. She'd never seen someone to come in and then bang, this person's reading 600 words a minute. Speed reading. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. It's always nice to be recognized. Okay, that's why you never judge this book by its cover. So anyways, getting back to this professor, in terms of my English. See, when I think of communications, there has to be enough of the message there. Otherwise, then you lose people. You have to provide enough of that information, like a quarter. I have to show you at least the head or tails, and then you would fill in the rest. It's like, okay, that's a quarter. You don't have to see the other side, which is the heads, to know that it's a quarter. So I have to put enough of that information, communication there, so you get the gist of it. The word getting the gist. And it's like it could be mixed up and everything, but as long as there's enough there, you're able to extract the message. Okay. So he was focusing on my grammar, and because my grammar wasn't correct, then the content in which I was writing about, which he was working real hard to discredit me, but he was using for the grammatical errors. And I was like, I did that deliberately. And you say, well, it's like when I see you totally focusing on these little imperfections, and you don't go in and acknowledge the content, you snitch yourself out. It's like, you know what I'm saying is of great value. And if you acknowledge it, it's going to show how pathetic you are. It's going to show how pathetic you are in terms of your knowledge. You're more smart than you are intelligent. And people have a hard time with that. It's like saving face, looking bad. So that professor, and I just kind of laughed. I was like, and the students that were jumping in on there, it was like there was a few of them that were catching on. And one had said, he goes, I finally get it, Everett. He said, and he mentioned code. Well, I guess you could call it code too. And he says, I finally get it. He said, that's freaking awesome. Okay. Which is like it's a communication within a communication within a communication. Just like we've seen pictures. You look at a picture, and if you look at it, then you see a picture within a picture. And then you could take it further. You could see a picture within a picture within a picture. Okay, we've seen these. Okay. So I love when people do that. They think, because I'm tuning and it's for the sole purpose is everyone's on different levels. And not everyone out there, from the last statistics that I was aware of, it's like 80% of our population in America, if it's true, I hope it isn't, and it's pathetic. 80% of our population has an education of an 8th grader. Okay. So I can't be sitting here talking like I'm from Harvard and using these extravagant words to talk and convey to you. Because the other person's going to say, oh, that son of a bitch thinks he's all high and mighty, think he's better than me. You'll shut that son of a bitch off quick. He won't even listen to you. Because you're just talking with extravagant words and proclamations and everything else. Okay, so I have to be effective. High punctuality. Okay, so I do it in a very complex way. So if I was going to write a book, of course I would have someone that what I wrote, they would put in the grammatic sense of things. Because a lot of people are used to that. Or I might just say, no, I'm going to force you. I got enough information there that you can extract the gist of it. And I'm going to develop you to look beyond just the basic default of communications. So, but I like having fun because it lets me know where you're at. And I've seen it a lot of the times, or I've seen it many times, which relates back to human behavior. It's like people, it's like they're sore losers. They hate the feeling of being pathetic and looking less than. Okay? And then what they call the candle concept means they'll blow your candle out and then their candle looks brighter. Well, it's brighter because it's the only candle lit. You see it happening all the time with human behavior out there. So essentially that's what he's doing. He's trying to blow out my candle as if he's superior because he has this name. I am a professor of 30 years at Harvard. And don't you dare not cross your T's and dot your I's. And you're using a present tense when it should have been a past tense. Okay? I have fun. I'm sorry, I play devil's advocate sometimes. But it's all in the good just of things. And especially when those, they really want to go out of the way to make you look pathetic. And it's like, as Einstein, that's what they try to do to me. And then energy says, okay, go get him, Tiger. But just give them a sample. Just a sample. Because you make them look and feel so pathetic. They'll crawl underneath that rock and they'll never come out. And then they're not doing you any good. So yeah, I am well-versed in communications. And I do things in terms of timing, from the words I'm saying to my tones of my voice. Tones. Vibrations. more than just the content in which I'm speaking about. Okay, so verbal and nonverbal communications. Everything that we see, verbal and nonverbal communications, the eye blinking, involuntary, non-voluntary. So these are all the things you have to take into account, especially when you're talking to one another, and these are like tools that helps you to open up and expand your objective mind of how communications can come about. You can use numbers, you can use sounds, using series of beats of a Morse code. Can you imagine waiting for your results of being the 16th president of the United States, and you're waiting on these little yep, President Lincoln is the 16th president. I said, yeah, I had to be notified. Morse code. But that was 1865. That was the evolution back in that time. So I always welcome professors. And it's like, if you want to open up the Pandora's box and you want to make me look pathetic and the energy gives me the green light, and it's no hard feelings. And it's like, I'll give you a sample. And I don't dare give you more than a sample. It just, you'll feel so freaking horrible. You'll crawl underneath that rock, and then we're not talking at all. Then we lose that functionality. So that's why it's important to understand me. On this duly noted part 9, is to understand me. I admit, okay, because I know myself. I know that sometimes I can be very difficult to live with. I can be very difficult in a lot of areas because my higher level of evolution. And I'm trying to, just like I said as Einstein, if you don't know it in its simplest form, you don't know enough. Well, it goes obvious if I was to say it in reverse. If you don't know something in its complex form, you do not know enough. You have to study and study hard. Okay? But you say, well, okay, if you don't know something in its simplest form, means see dog run, run dog run. It's like, well, I sound like a retard. Well, wait a minute. Is there something wrong with a retard? No. You have children out there. You have different evolutions out there. You may have to talk to them like a retard because that's how they understand things. You don't know that. That's why you kind of feel them out. That's why we talk to babies and they say, oh, look at a little baby, look at do. And that baby, it's like, what a freaking idiot. He's an adult. Communications. So, you could do whatever is all I can say. Is if you want to get the just out of me, is focus on the different levels of communications that I'm putting in here. How I'm doing it. And as you're evolving, you may not understand it now, but you might understand it a month later or a year later. And maybe you're focusing on timing of things and the vibration of things and facial expression of things. And these are all variables in terms of mathematics. These are variables. And the slight deviation, just like in speaking Hebrew or speaking Arabic, you could say the same thing, but if you put in the back of it, you just changed it totally different, even though it sounds the same. Just like tomato and tomato. Dialects. Mandarin. There's so many different dialects of that. And see, that itself is being used to identify your region. And then, like, say, lawyers or certain groups of people. And it's like, if we're to say you're going to be a lawyer, okay, you do not say awesome, because awesome doesn't sound superior. So how we identify each other from Harvard, we would say that was excellent. That was, these are words, okay? And that's why when someone speaks in a particular way, you say, oh, you must be a lawyer. Because you can, in this white Indian, put dots on the forehead. Identification. So there's so many different ways when it comes to communication sector. I mean, it's like, why do you have people out there that hold their pants down and look like their ass is hanging out? You know, it's another identifiable mark, being different. You know, and that's been throughout the history of man. So there's nothing new, you know. But my most important thing, the bare minimum, is I have to make sure that the message in which I'm trying to convey is conveyed. Is that you understand. So if however I say it, and I say, I'm going to the grocery store, pick up 1 gallon of milk. If I said it backwards, say about dyslexic, or for example, you would say, well, I think, but it sounded like he said he's going to the grocery store to get a gallon of milk, right? Okay, I am understanding that. So we've seen things out there where they take the words, they keep the first letter and the last letter, and they'll jumble the letters in between out. And as long as there's enough there, you're able to read it. And it might slow you up a little bit, but it's like, okay, you can read it. Okay. That's also a form of decoding, coding, putting a message within a message within a message within a message, putting depth, dimensions, elements, symbolism, timing, rhythm, placement. You know, with English grammar, placement is very important. You know, it's like, okay, with the noun and then the verb. Okay, usually is like you start with your noun and say, Bill ran, that's the verb. Or you can say, Bill, the noun, softly or slowly ran, which is an adjective. And then you get into prepositions and it's like, so I know communications. You know, I want to stay on the level that puts about high punctuality. You know, so and we see I've seen a lot. It's like people, you know, they're trying to identify themselves, and it's like when they perceive you, is like, oh, you think you're high and mighty, you know, and it's like they're misperceiving you. You know, you could be the greatest person in the world, but they feel inferior somehow, and they don't like feeling pathetic. Okay, but if you make that connection, they'll talk to you all day long. That brings about punctuality. So with this professor, dot your I's and dot your T's, and you don't know, because you don't know your grammar, that means the content in which you're saying has no value to it. You know, there's so many tricks in the trade to blow one's candle out. So people haven't tapped in to the tools available in terms of using that method on people, blowing one's candle out, belittling, make them look pathetic. You know, I have some skill sets that people haven't even thought about yet, and I don't use it because when you do, it just makes people feel so horrible, and I don't like making people feel horrible. You know, I mean, I'll give you a sample of it, and then I quickly stop and say, "Wow, goddamn, that freaking stung." And say, okay, no more questions for Mr. Everett. So it's not pat myself on the back, but I am from a higher intelligence. I earned this. So I look at many ways that I can communicate. I don't even have to say a word. I can get up there. You say, God damn, that son of a bitch is ugly. No, but I was saying, communications could be on so many different levels. Don't rob yourself, especially with me. And if you're going to get into critiquing and analyzing and then not take the gist of what I'm saying, you're just going to snitch yourself out. So anyway, we'll end it right there. But I had to talk about this. I've mentioned this before, and I've seen it, you know, on my Facebook. I don't know who was having fun. I'll try to get as much grammatically correct and cross my T's, and I go back, and then I put woman in there, and I go back, and then And then there's another extra word in there, a fat woman. And I was like, going to say, oh my God, someone reads this woman's going to probably think that I have something against fat women. And then at another time, it was like, and then there was skinny in there. And I was like, oh, great, women, now skinny women are going to think I have something against skinny women. And so when I write my thing, especially on Facebook, and, you have the voice to text on your phone, which is less than perfect with that freaking Google, I have to double check things. And I look at it and say, okay, am I comfortable with this? And then I just roll with it. As long as I got my message, the gist of it there, then you are to read it in or watch my video. So we'll end it right there. This is the 18th of July, 2016. And it's almost 5 a.m. in the morning. So hopefully that'll give you a little more insight to understanding me. I want to understand you in the two-way street. Left and right am, woman, male and female, day and night, yin, yang. So once you get to understand me, you say, yeah, he's got a little rough around the edges, and some things, but you'll know when the dust settles with me is I like a win-win situation for all of us. And I'm about, my main focus is self-preservation. Forever life is forever death, which means extinction. So once you get to that conclusion with me, then you kind of relax a little bit and not be so fearful of me and be so defensive against me or towards me and say, well, you don't say against Everett, it's towards me. Because I do. Sometimes I'll use past tense when it should be present tense. And sometimes I'll so anyway, that will give you a little insight to Everett Pierce, also known as Albert Einstein, Abraham Lincoln. So if you don't take the time to get the gist of the things that I tell you, you're really missing out. But I can't twist your arm. I can't force you to do whatever. I can take a horse to a water, but I can't make you drink. That's where that old quote come from. So we'll end it right there. This is Everett Pierce, and thank you for your time.